Do you feel you're being pulled in different directions? You can't find a place between the rhetoric and all those competing voices? You don't know where to turn? Don't know what to trust? Or you just want to hear a lively discussion about relevant issues without picking sides or all the mudslinging? Well, welcome to the Rock Pile. Join us. That's Lewis and Oma. We talk about faith, culture, and a bunch of other messy subjects. You can agree or disagree. It'll be lively, likely messy, but we hope interesting. Come on our journey to understand. No rock throwing, just a rock pile.
Welcome. This is episode 9 of season 2.
Season 2,
sorry. Of the Rock Pile.
Of the Rock Pile.
That's
yes.
Right.
And we hope you had a great holiday.
Yes.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
And so we thought we'd stop in and start by actually restating what the purpose of the Rock Pile is. We like to do that every so often.
That's right.
Because we want people to understand what we're trying to do.
Right.
Because you can go out and spend your time looking on the internet or social media, and you'll hear the same things over and over and over again.
And that's not what we want. We wanted to give an overview and some historical content into what is really going on right now.
And the things of how we got here.
Yes.
Or
because it will change our perspective, because it has ours.
Well, yes. And you want to be able to say, well, how did we get where we are in a kind of a narrative without having to read 85 books to do it.
Right.
Although I'm doing lots of reading, so are you.
Yes.
Just in order to get a perspective of, when people say a certain things, you go read and pull some journal articles, or you go look and do your own research, and you can find all kinds of things.
Yes. But we're going to actually provide
the links to them.
The links and a lot of this information.
Right. And so you don't have to read it all, but it is a resource.
That's right.
And that's the thing. Once you find the resource and save those resources, then when people are talking, you have a place to go to at least try to find something about that subject.
Yeah. Give yourself some kind of a content in order so that you can better understand what the real objective of what they're trying to say and do.
Right. So let's, we wrote some words down, or wrote some things down about, what we wanted to talk about, the whys, what's, where's, and how
and
to.
the hows.
Right.
Absolutely.
So if you think yourself as a kind of investigative reporter.
As a regular person, so what would we do if we're trying to do investigative reporting?
Well, it wouldn't be, you're not trying to be a quote unquote investigative reporter. You just want to use those tools that you would think if you're taking a class in journalism before it changed its function nowadays. Back in the day, you'd ask those simple questions: who, what, when, and where, maybe how.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we talked, a couple episodes back about, timing. Why now? And let me give you an example.
Good.
So we just had an election. Everybody knows that. And in that election, the House flipped from Democrat to Republican.
Yes.
This was small majority.
The House did.
Yeah. The House did. The Senate is still Democrat, and you still have a Democrat president. So the current administration is now talking about gun control. Well, now you say, why now? 2 weeks ago, you controlled both the House, the Senate, and the executive branch. Congress and the executive branch, two of those. Even in spite of the Heller decision, you still had two of those. And you didn't do it then.
Yes, that makes you wonder.
Why now? What makes you think you have a better chance with a Republican-held Congress, lower house, the House of Representatives, which is different than what you had before? What is your chance? You don't have a chance. Well, you could, but what's the likelihood that the people that are have the new ones coming there are going to align themselves with doing what you want? Well, is it going to be greater now than it was then? No. One could argue, just looking at the thing, even if you don't know what doesn't matter what position you hold.
So it's all about
the narrative.
That's right.
And they want to blame somebody. And so here's how this works. So then they say, we're going to do whatever, take action on guns, right? Which is what they're arguing. And the Republicans don't want to do that. Well, then who do you blame for all this stuff going on around the country? You're going to blame the Republicans. That's what all this is about. It's
It
about
is.
blaming somebody for what you can't or won't do. And so that way it makes you look better.
Makes you vilified.
Yes. And I've got a section, we're going to talk about this, the love for having a villain. And
Yes.
we're going to cover that in a minute. And it's really interesting. Just ask yourself, everybody wants and needs a villain.
Well, life is just plain busy. It
Yes.
just is, because you're working, you're doing and dealing with family, whatever it is. Now, to take extra time to understand what we're hearing on the news and different things that are coming up, that's not that easy.
No, it's not. But the average person spends a lot of time on their cell phone and on the internet and on social media. And most of the social media is not necessarily geared towards gathering information as much as it's really entertainment.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Right. So if you're,
It's to distract.
yes. And
Yes.
here's the thing. They know you're distracted. They being
They're trying to
person
distract
who's
you.
pushing the narrative.
Yes.
And you say, well, you sound kind of like there's something out there. Well, once we start to show you these links and you start investigating, you'll realize that over the centuries,
Yes.
there's a group of people, ourselves, they called and have called and consider us uneducated,
Yeah.
don't have the ability to understand, and that we, the vulgar, they called it,
Which we hear today as deplorables.
basket of deplorables,
Right.
some vulgar term about individuals who plainly or in their minds, they are being the people who believe they have the information and that we need help because we can't comprehend
Yes.
what they're
We're simple.
saying or doing. We're too simple or
Yes.
you name the descriptor. They believe that they, being
Superior.
the scientific / experts / philosophers of the age, the elites, call them
Yes.
whatever you like.
Yeah.
And there's been terms been used over the centuries, proletariat, you talk about division of classes. You can pick whatever term that's been used throughout history.
These agendas.
These agendas, the whole point is to feed you information that they know will elicit responses. And we've talked about this before.
That's right.
Okay, so let's take this down from the 40,000 to just something real that we experience
Okay.
even now. So you see a lot of the people who are going to take over the House of Representatives talk about impeachment. You've seen that in the news, impeachment, investigations,
Yeah.
etc.
A lot of boasting going on.
A lot of boasting. Because here's the reason why it's boasting. In order to get an impeachment, you have to have a majority in the House, which only takes 218. That's you can slide that under. You have that. If you can get all 218 of your contingency of Republicans to vote for you. Let's say you do that. It takes it over to the Senate where they do the investigation. How many do you need over there? 2/3. What's 2/3 of 100? 66. Well, the Democrats hold right now 50-50, likely going to be 51-49. So that means the Republicans, in order to get a conviction to impeach somebody, you'd have to have 15 or 16 Democrats come over to your side.
And what's the likelihood of that?
What's the likelihood of that? So you see one person asking the Department of Homeland Security to resign or be impeached.
Right.
The person tells them no. Why? Because he knows the likelihood of you doing that is very, very,
very
small.
slim.
Because they've already
Yeah.
canvassed all the people on their side, and they realize the Republicans in the House and in the Senate would not have the votes for it. That's what I think's going on. It could
Mhm.
change based on the information. So
But there's a reason
Right.
they do this.
right, there's a reason they're doing this. They want you to think they're doing something,
That's right.
but they don't think you know what it takes to get an impeachment, and likely you may not. And because of that, and there are people, and I see it on social media, and people respond or have a question, they don't realize that, they're going to impeach him. That's not a guarantee.
No.
That's just, you can go through the process and make them look bad,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean they're going anywhere.
Yeah.
Well, okay, you can say impeachment. I'm going to impeach this person, I'm going to impeach the president, I'm going to impeach all. Unless you have some offense that you can prove in the Senate to 66 senators who will vote for it, you're not going to get it. You might get them to resign, but if they don't want to, they're not going to.
Right.
And
Right.
and the current president, who is aligned with the party that controls the Senate, guess what? He's not going to do it.
Not going to do it.
And so you need to understand that when you hear that, what's the likelihood?
So what can we do? What would be the answer to that?
Well, one of the things that people need, we, including myself, need to understand that what's the thing we need to do or can practically do.
Yes.
We may not be able to impeach them, right? But we can keep things from getting passed that would have gotten passed 2 weeks ago. So anything and everything, it's 218, 220 against every single time.
Yeah.
Don't give them a quorum. Don't show up. You just, like, use their term, resist. And you keep resisting until such time as they have to come to the table and negotiate. And then you try to get some things that you want.
So you're basically stalling.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is a lame duck. It's what it is. You're going to stall. You have to stall till you, otherwise, what are you going to do? Capitulate? Give them everything they want?
No.
It's like a spoiled child in the middle of the store wanting pizza, throw themselves on the ground, throw a temper tantrum. We see it all the time.
Right.
We've seen it in 2 years ago and all these riots broke out. What is that? Spoiled children and no one told them no. So what do? They tear things up.
Yeah.
And then they say, I'm going to keep tearing stuff up until you give me what I want. Well, guess what? They gave them what they wanted.
Yes.
Right. So I've left some journal articles and really just got to read the information, the first of the journal article.
Even just the synopsis will give you quite a bit.
You want the
there
abstract. You read the abstract. You've pretty much read the abstract, the basic introduction and the conclusion.
Yeah.
And you've got the answer.
And you've got it.
They'll tell you the answer. So just breeze through it. There's going to be sites where you can go to the actual government sites that explains this.
Yes.
And so you can sit down and within 15 minutes, you'll understand the process. You
Yes.
don't have to know it in detail. Just have to say, no, they're not going to get that done. So if we can't get them impeached and you basically say, I'm going to resist. And then you just investigate everything that everybody wants to know and open that box and just keep opening it and opening it and opening it. And eventually they're going to come to the table because whatever they don't want you to hear or whatever they don't want you to see
what they're
needs to be
hiding.
brought to light.
Right.
Bring the light, shine a light, tell everybody where all this stuff's going. Look at every laptop you could hand, do everything you can possibly do to throw it out there, put it on the social media, get on that Twitter and find out what they've been doing. Talk about the government doing this. Just keep bringing it out, throwing that laundry out there. Pretty soon, everybody's going to start to realize this is smelling. And guess what? People are going to start coming to the table to talk because once you get them over the barrel, it's going to be fun to watch them, scream. So
we're going to talk about progressivism.
Well, we're going to talk about progressivism and radical liberalism in future episodes.
Right.
Because what we're going to do is we're going to start talking about how we got here, how they got us here, they being the progressives, liberals, radical liberal.
Over centuries.
Oh, yes. It's been since.
It really, truly has.
And you're going to start with a person.
Through executive orders, through.
Well, we're going to go back in history.
Yeah.
And we're going to start with people like Machiavelli. And you think,
what has he got to do?
What's he got to do with? Well, we'll show you.
Yes.
Machiavelli.
Mm-hmm.
Here's some names for you. Machiavelli, Hobbes, Spinoza, Rousseau. We're going to Locke, Mills. And then we're going to come into this 20th
modern
century.
age. Yes.
Modern age. We're going to talk about some of those.
Yeah.
We're
not going to go really deep.
No.
We're just going to give you a little synopsis of how this all kind of strings together.
Right. And that's going to be over a few episodes as topics arise. But, just so people understand, where this is coming from. We're not just making this up and say, oh, let's just create some sort of a conspiracy theory. No, we're just trying to say here.
We're just connecting the dots.
We're trying to connect the dots.
Yes.
And people will disagree, and that's okay.
That's all right.
This is messy. We told you it was messy when you came.
That's right.
So let's talk about, part of the thing is when we talk about progressivism in the future, we've talked about it in the past. One of the things is an eye opener is I've put a link on in the comments or the notes section.
Yes.
And go in there and look at how many administrative agencies exist today.
Oh, you'll be shocked. You'll
be shocked. You can't even scroll through them. And recognize that these administrative agencies are created by legislation. They're completed by
executive order,
and
by themselves.
Yeah. And so you get a sense, and I left a small little article that says how that works.
Yeah.
And so that way, when they say these certain agencies, when they say, hey, how do we get rid of this agency? Some of them just a pen stroke on executive order.
Yeah.
Because they're created that way, they can take them down. legislatures can not fund them.
Yes,
They can
that would be a big
basically-
way of doing it.
That's probably the easiest way.
Yes.
Or they could just abolish them altogether, or they can reorganize them. And that
That's been tried before.
Nixon tried to do that before, and that didn't work out so well for him, among other things. But that was one of the things he was trying to do. And there were some other presidents who tried to do that too, and it didn't work out.
No.
So it didn't work out for them. And so, and also you can go, there's a link there, and you can look at the executive orders that you find that people are talking about. So when the president signs an executive order, you can go there, find it. It's published. So you can find out what it actually says,
It's
what
out
it actually
there.
does.
Yeah.
And then, recognize that then the Congress has an opportunity to deal with that executive order in a way that if you had all three branches, well, not three branches, but the House, the Senate, and the executive branch working together, those executive orders get written and no one does anything about them because they're all on the same side.
Right.
So,
right.
It's now that you have.
And that can work to our benefit or it can work against us.
Correct. So that's
it's
one of the things that you can find. So I've listed them, who these are, what they do. And so you can see that you think that Congress has a bigger impact in your life. You'll find out by looking at this that no,
it's the agencies.
The agencies have far more impact in your daily
on our day
life.
to day. Yes, they do.
It doesn't matter what it is.
Everybody loves to have a villain.
Yes. And one only has to, and I use that phrase, one only has to look at or listen to the narrative that comes out of the spokesperson or the other party about Republicans. And they use the term, those far right radical, name the invective after that.
Right.
That's the villain.
Yeah, it is.
And they want you to focus on somehow this group is doing something that takes something from you. And if I can get you afraid that I'm going to take your freedom, your liberty, or your property, the three things that we typically in this country cherish, liberty, property, and freedom. Okay.
It's freedom. Yeah.
Right. And if we can they're going to take something from you. What's your response generally?
Oh, stop. No.
And I'm going to vote against it.
Yes.
Or I'm going to align myself with it.
Right.
But if we don't take the time to find out if that's actually a true statement or that's really going to be happening.
Yeah.
So like we talked about earlier, if they say, I'm going to impeach this person, right? Well, what's the likelihood that's going to happen? Well, it's not. Well, no, it's not.
No, it's just to make them look good.
Well, an impeachment was supposed to be something that was rare.
Very. Yeah. But not anymore.
Not anymore. It's like, if I
now we hear it all the time.
Can't get my way, I'm going to impeach you. And that shouldn't be anybody's position.
No.
I don't care what side you're on.
No.
Unless you've committed some sort of a crime that is at the level where that's supposed to be happening.
Right.
So it doesn't make anybody feel better no matter what political.
Well, it's to demean confidence.
Yes. Well, and also you say, well, if you did it, I can do it. Well, okay. That's not necessarily the high road, but I get what they're doing.
Tit for tat.
Yeah. So if you can't get it done, well, then we're going to have to fight the same way. And maybe you do. Maybe you have to say, oh, in California, boat harvesting is illegal. So let's figure out how to do it better. Well, how about let's come up with a better idea while we're doing this, so we can set the rule and make them abide by it, and have them to set the rules, and we have to work with it.
Like Genghis Khan.
Genghis Khan, that was his motto, or not motto, but that's
just what he did. That was his practice.
He said he made the rules and made them
apply. Yeah.
And instead of trying to win by their rules and play by it,
he just made his own rules.
And he did, and he was very
successful.
Successful.
He conquered, he just laid down his new rules, and everybody had to apply.
Right, and his strategy was he found a way to to create a different an opportunity that most people weren't thinking about. So he thought outside the box. I'm not saying people are nice people or whatever. I'm just saying this is just a reality of history.
That's just history.
Okay,
yeah, we're not saying that he's a great guy.
Well, he did. He is historical, and he had his.
That was what he did.
That's what he did. So. But one of the things that he did use was fear.
Oh, yes.
So in the battle or siege of Bojada, he made this move around through the desert. I think it's the Gobi Desert, and marched half of his army around the other side where they didn't expect him to come. And then when he got there, they realized it was too late. They thought it was just traitors. Well, what they found out was it was a massive army of Genghis Khan.
Yes, because he didn't run up there, right? No, isn't that the one where he just kind of moseyed in?
Right, like he was coming, and they found out that and then they're at the gate.
Yeah.
And so everybody was afraid. And then what he did while he was there, I won't go into details. everybody understood when he was going, because his next goal was the next city. I don't remember what the name of it was, but that next city where the king lived, and that wasn't a king, it was the Sultan, I think is what it was, lived there. And they knew he's coming. Well, they fled because they already knew what he was doing. They already knew what he did. So he didn't have to fight the battle. And from what I've read, that was the tactic.
Yeah.
He didn't want to fight battles. He wanted they wanted him to give up.
Yeah.
Like Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah.
Or like Wile E. Coyote goes to Bugs Bunny and hands him a card and says, "Genius.
Yeah.
Just give up."
Yeah.
Right.
I'm so smart. You need
Right.
to just give up right now.
So, if you think about, as we're going to go through, some of the things that we've read and we're going to give links to, if you read Machiavelli to Prince, it's just a strategy of this person, and I think it's from Florence, writing to the prince of how to use people and events and
manipulate it
to your advantage.
Yeah.
A lot of people use the word, that's very Machiavellian of you, because
Right.
it's the darker side of
manipulation.
And so if you look,
negotiation.
right. And so if if you read the book or you're familiar with it, you can look around and say, well, I see that happen.
Oh yeah, we do.
So we see that happen. So anyway, there's other books that I'm going to list in here, reading like Genghis Khan, The Strategy, Miyomachi, taking up the word, Musashi Miyamoto. Miyamoto
That's
Musashi.
hard. Yeah, hard to say those things.
The books, The Five Rings, and then Sun Tzu's Art of War. Now you say, well, everybody reads those. Think about what they're trying to get. They're trying to communicate, they being those books, and then ask yourself, am I seeing that in the way people are acting?
Yeah. Are those strategies being used today? Absolutely, they are.
Fear, manipulation.
Yes.
Whatever. And
Mhm.
propaganda.
Underhanded, kind of going around the situation. Yeah.
And so we're back to the beginning. So we'll wrap this up. We're back to the beginning. Ask those questions. Why now? What's this for? What's the purpose? What's going on?
Yeah.
Why is this important
What's the
now?
emphasis now?
So am I bringing something out that replaces something else? Because I don't want you to stay, look here, because I don't want you to pay attention to what's really going on. I don't want you to see this Ponzi scheme. So I put you over here. So you focus on this. I don't want you to focus on the Ukrainian issue because I want you over here.
Right.
You've got to see
ask yourself.
Exactly. And so next episodes, we're going to start going into this type of stuff. But we want to remind everybody, it's time we should be asking the questions that no one's asking these people, and standing up front and ask yourself, why aren't they asking these questions?
Yes.
And then those are the questions you want to find the answer to. And so do we. And so as we start to uncover things for ourselves, we're going to give you the things that we find. And that way you can follow along, or if you want, provide us links to us so we can go and look ourselves.
Yes.
So
until then, blessing.
Well, that's a wrap. Thanks for joining and sticking with us today. Please subscribe to Cairn's Rockpile Podcast. We're on most podcast sites, Spotify, Podbean, Apple, Google, Samsung. Also, our website and spotlighted organization are in the podcast description. Please share it with your friends, family, or anyone you know. Join us next week. Until then, stand firm, be the light, and most importantly, pray. Blessings.